If somebody were to ask me who are my role models, you might be quite surprised to hear that one of them is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Obviously, I'm not a bodybuilder. I also have no aspirations to be an actor or a politician. But there's something about Arnold, the way that he has lived his life, his philosophy and his approach, that I find incredibly inspiring. And I think there are some lessons from Arnold's life that we as men can all learn, regardless of what domain you wish to be successful in. So in today's video, I've broken these down into 5 different lessons about what it means to be a man. Lessons on masculinity from Arnold himself. Gentlemen, let's waste no time and get right into it. Hello, my name is James, and I am on a mission to create a generation of gentlemen. The first lesson we can learn about masculinity from Arnold Schwarzenegger is the art of reinvention. Arnold has had 3 distinct chapters in his life. As a younger man, he was a Mr. Olympia champion bodybuilder, doing more with his body than anybody had ever seen before in human history. But then he stopped doing that. He ended his bodybuilding career at its peak and entered into a new domain, the domain of acting. A domain that, for a man like Arnold, would have seemed almost the most difficult thing to get into of all. He had a very thick accent. He had a freakishly large body. It seemed like he wouldn't fit in with Hollywood at all. But then he became one of the biggest movie stars of all time. And then finally, politics. Remember, this is before Donald Trump made being a celebrity politician a popular idea, but he served as governor of California for 2 terms. Why do we need to reinvent ourselves? It's because history will inevitably keep moving, times will keep changing, and if we fail to change with them, then we will always be left behind. Imagine if Arnold had simply continued to be a bodybuilder and never explored new domains. It's very unlikely I would be making this video talking about him now. In many ways, your legacy is defined by how you adapt and how you reinvent yourself. So as a man, don't be afraid to recognize that there are chapters in your life. You may spend your 20s becoming successful at one thing, only to seemingly start over from scratch in your 30s and achieve mastery in a new domain. Here is the second lesson on masculinity that I've learned from Arnold Schwarzenegger. To give generously, you must first become great. Arnold does not apologize for having pursued his goals on a very selfish level as a younger man. The pursuit of bodybuilding is in of itself extremely selfish, even narcissistic to an extent. You are so focused on how you look, on what you eat, how you train. It's all about me, me, me. But then later in life, he transitioned to a position where he was able to give very generously. And I heard him talking about this in an interview. So when he was asked by the Special Olympics to go and train those kids in bodybuilding, teach them how to lift, help them with that, he never would have been asked to do that if he hadn't been Mr. Olympia. So it was only because he relentlessly and selfishly pursued this goal and elevated himself that he was able to give back to others on such a grand scale. It's the same with money. If you want to give outrageously, if you want to be so generous, you first need to become wealthy. Because if you only have a very limited resource, whether this is money or power or status, you're extremely limited in your ability to give. So particularly as a younger man, don't be afraid to focus on building up yourself. Yes, you can help others along the way, but remember, the greater you make yourself, the greater you make your life, and the more resources you accumulate, the more you will have to give back in the future. Another very important part of Arnold's life philosophy is the power of discipline. And this was one of the first lessons that I learned from Arnold and I felt truly inspired by. The way Arnold sees life is this: you have 24 hours in a day, and you must organize each and every one of those hours in a way that orients you and sets you in the direction of your goals. In the early days of his bodybuilding career, when he first moved to the US, he had a relentless daily routine. He worked full-time in construction. Then he would train 5 hours a day in the gym. He also went to college, and then from 8 p.m. till 12 p.m., 4 times a week, he took acting classes. And he makes no illusions about it. It's this routine that made him the man he is today. It's so frustrating today when I hear people say they don't have time to work on their side hustle. They don't have time to take care of their body. They don't have time even for dating. But if you truly organized your life and you stopped wasting time on unfulfilling activities like being on Instagram for an hour a day, you would realize that you have the resources you need already to truly change your life. And just start with 1 hour a day. Imagine if you decided to play piano and you committed to practicing just 1 hour a day. Think how good you would be within 1 year. Think of all the wonderful pieces you could play, the sense of fulfillment you would get from your performance. Luckily, we all have more than 1 hour a day of free time, even after our sleep, work commitments, showering and eating and exercising. Once that's all done, we still have 3 to 4 hours at least that we can use to put our life in the direction we want it to go in. In order to be disciplined and to keep working toward a goal, you must have a very clear vision. And this is Arnold's 4th lesson for us men, the power of vision. He's spoken extensively about how he would visualize his goals, how he would have a very clear idea of what he wanted his life to look like, and how he would go about doing that. So, for example, most people hate their job because they have no real purpose to it. They don't see the greater vision. When Arnold decided to run for governor of California, it was because he had a vision for how great the state could be, how the infrastructure needed updating, how to stop pollution. And part of that vision had come from his experiences of traveling to other countries, to traveling to Asia, seeing how great the infrastructure could be. So he had this very clear idea in his mind for how the state should be run. And that was what gave him the fuel to run for governor, even though it was very much against the odds that he would win, and many people around him doubted that he could do it. As a man, you need to use your creativity and be a visionary in your life. You need to be the captain of the ship. If the captain doesn't know where he's going, it doesn't matter how talented the crew are or how well the ship has been built, it will still drift around aimlessly. Personally, I like to have the practice where every quarter, every 3 months, I will sit down and I will write my goals and I will visualize how I want my life to look in the next 3, 6 months, and even in the next year. And I also use visual examples that I'll find on the internet, photos of my vision for the future and what I want my life to look like. That way, when I wake up not really in the mood to work, not feeling as connected with my goals or my discipline as I did before, I can go back to that vision, go back to this idea about the future, and remember that everything I do is just another step toward that future. The final lesson on masculinity that I have taken from Arnold Schwarzenegger is the importance of stubborn self-belief. As an ambitious man, the world will tell you no again and again, but you need to have the stubbornness, almost arrogance, to always hear yes. Yes, it can be done. Just because it hasn't been done before, just because the odds are against me and other people are skeptical, doesn't mean that I can't be the one who finally makes it happen. Arnold faced doubts at every stage in his career. When he first wanted to become a bodybuilder, he was told that wouldn't happen because he was from a small town in Austria and bodybuilding was an American sport. Well, guess what? He got himself to America. When he wanted to become an actor, he was told it was impossible because he had this weird German accent and the kind of physique that just wasn't on screen in Hollywood at that time. Next thing you know, he is the #1 highest paid actor in the country. And of course, when it came to his political ambitions, it seemed very unlikely that a former movie star and bodybuilder could be taken seriously as governor of the largest state in America, the 5th largest economy in the world. He ended up serving 2 terms as governor. And what's interesting about Arnold is that not only did he use the doubts as fuel, as motivation, but he also used these obstacles to his advantage. For example, in Terminator, when he said that line, the "I'll be back" line, that would be nowhere near as memorable or recognizable if it hadn't been for his strange Austrian accents. And he never would have landed these roles like Conan the Barbarian if it weren't for his fear-inducing absurdly impressive and large physique. So he turned what others would have interpreted as a weakness into a strength. And personally, when I began starting my YouTube channel, I faced the obstacles in my own mind of thinking, well, you're not as experienced as those older YouTubers, you don't know as much as they do, why would anybody want to listen to this young kid? And I realized that actually, me being young, me being Gen Z, was exactly what I had to offer. That was part of my value. So I made the channel around Gen Z, hence the name Gent Z. And therefore I've introduced people of my generation to concepts that they wouldn't have picked up from perhaps an older YouTuber or influencer. So use your weaknesses as your strengths and always believe in yourself even when people tell you it's impossible. Gentlemen, let's finish off by recapping the 5 lessons on masculinity that Arnold Schwarzenegger taught us. The first one is the art of reinvention. Understand that your life exists in chapters, and if you fail to adapt and change with the times, you will only be forgotten. 2. In order to give generously, you first must become great. The bigger you build yourself, the bigger you become, the more you can give back. 3. The power of discipline. We all have 24 hours in a day. Organize it in a way that orients toward your goals. Number 4. Craft a vision. A man must be creative. He must have a clear goal in his mind that he's working toward. And don't let this vision be limited by what is ordinary or what is expected of you. 5. Stubborn self-belief. The world will tell an ambitious man no, but he must hear yes. Gentlemen, perhaps this video was a little unexpected. Let me know down in the comments how you feel about Arnold Schwarzenegger. And let me know if you have any role models that you would like to see a video just like this about. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.